Romeo and Juliet is a famous play written by world-famous playwright William Shakespeare. It is a tragic love story that revolves around two characters, Romeo and Juliet. They're supposed to be sworn enemies because they come from rival families, but instead they fall in love. Welcome to Level Up English. Today we are going to focus on English in context, where I will teach you English using famous stories, biographies, and events in history. These will be presented to you the same way they are presented to native English speakers. During the story, I will highlight the words, phrases, and sentences I will discuss during the second half of this lesson. Hit that subscribe button and let's learn English in context. Let's meet the main characters that I will speak about in our story today. We have our young man, Romeo Montague, and our sweet Juliet Capulet. There is Tybalt Capulet, who is Juliet's cousin, and we have Mercutio, who is a close friend to Romeo. We also have Benvolio, who is Romeo's cousin. There is Count Paris, who is supposed to marry our Juliet, and Friar Lawrence, a friar who plays the role of a wise advisor to Romeo and Juliet. There are other characters in the play, but these are the characters that I will talk about as we look at the story of Romeo and Juliet. Set in Verona, Italy, there is an age-old vendetta between the Montague and Capulet families. The story starts with a street fight that results in Prince Escalus declaring that the next person to break the peace will be severely punished. Meanwhile, Romeo Montague is out sulking because of his unrequited love for a woman called Rosaline. He is devastated over his relationship. Rosaline is not interested in Romeo. Benvolio, Romeo's cousin, tells him to forget about her because there are many fish in the sea, but Romeo remains despondent about his situation. Now, Juliet's father has already chosen a suitor for Juliet, and his name is Paris. The Capulets hold a traditional masquerade and feast, and Juliet's father invites Paris, hoping that he will win Juliet's heart. However, there is a small problem. Romeo and Benvolio have decided to gatecrash this feast. Call it fate or destiny. This is where our lovebirds first meet each other and they fall in love instantly. Now remember, Romeo is a Montague and Juliet is a Capulet. It's about the worst type of situation, but being young and in love, they don't really care. They choose love. Now here's where our story starts to get interesting. Romeo and Juliet decide to get married, and Friar Lawrence is the one who marries them. Secretly. Sounds like they got their happily ever after, right? Wrong! While Romeo is out with Mercutio and Benvolio, Juliet's cousin Tybalt comes in. As usual, a fight begins between the Montagues and the Capulets, and the next thing we know, Tybalt kills Mercutio. Now, our love-struck Romeo is back to reality and he is angry. So, of course, he kills Tybalt. But do you remember what the prince said at the beginning? He said anyone disturbing the peace would be severely punished. They will be in big trouble. Needless to say, Romeo was now in big trouble. His punishment for killing Tybalt was banishment, exile. Shock and despair. These were some of the emotions experienced by our young lovers. Romeo is sent away, but this is actually the least of their problems right now. Juliet's father was deeply affected by what happened to Tybalt, and as a result, he has decided to move up Juliet's wedding date to Paris. Instead of getting married in the next 2 years, Juliet is now expected to be married in the next 3 days. So what's the problem here? The problem is that Juliet is already married. All hope is not lost. Friar Lawrence and Juliet come up with a devious plan to reunite Juliet with Romeo. This is the plan. The night before her wedding to Paris, Juliet is to drink a poison that will make her appear dead. Once she is laid to rest in the Capulet crypt, Romeo and Friar Lawrence will retrieve her and they'll be able to live happily ever after, away from their feuding families. It's a bit of a crazy plan, but they're sure it will work. There's one major flaw. There are no cell phones, emails, DMs, or any type of social media, so the message with the plan doesn't reach Romeo on time. All Romeo hears is that his precious Juliet is dead. He gets his hands on his own vial of poison and races back to Verona, where he plans to kill himself in Juliet's tomb. He arrives at her tomb and sees that she's really dead, so he decides that he cannot live without her, and he has his little vial of poison, which really kills him. Later, Juliet awakes in the tomb and sees Romeo next to her, dead. She just cannot believe it. Overcome with grief, she takes his dagger and kills herself. And that is the tragic love story of Romeo and Juliet. Please keep in mind that this story was just to provide a brief overview of the famous play, and it is not at all presented in detail. Now we are going to look at some of the words and phrases that were highlighted during the lesson so that we can understand the story of Romeo and Juliet even better. Let's learn English. The first phrase I highlighted during this lesson was age-old. Age-old refers to something very old or something that has existed for a long time. Example, I have my grandmother's age-old recipes. Our second word is vendetta. This is a lovely advanced word and it means a long, bitter quarrel or disagreement with someone or a campaign against someone. It's something you would have with an enemy. If you hated me for a long time and you are open about your feelings towards me, then we can say you have a vendetta against me. Number 3 is severely. Severely is another way of saying harsh or unnecessarily extreme. Example, you will be severely punished for your bad behavior. This means I am not going to just do a simple punishment. No. I am going to do an extreme punishment, a harsh punishment. Sulking. This means to remain silent or to hold oneself aloof. It can also mean to be in an offended mood. Example, the little girl sulked when her mother wouldn't buy her any candy. 5 is unrequited. This means not returned or not reciprocated. So when we talk about unrequited love, we are talking about a love that is not returned. Example, Romeo was devastated over his unrequited love for Rosaline. This means that Romeo was upset because his love for Rosaline was not returned, or Rosaline did not feel the same way. Number 6 is devastated. This means extremely upset and shocked. Example, I was devastated when my dog died. 7. There are many fish in the sea. This idiom is used to tell someone whose relationship has ended that there are many other people that they could have a relationship with. If someone is going through a bad breakup, you could simply say, don't be too upset. You'll find someone else. There are many fish in the sea. Despondent. This is to be in low spirits from a loss of hope and a loss of courage. Example, I felt despondent after failing all my exams. Suitor. This is one who courts a woman or seeks to marry a woman. Example, Paris was a suitor for Juliet. Masquerade. In the context of the story, they are referring to a masquerade ball. A masquerade ball is sometimes seen as the ultimate party where guests can come and go surrounded by a scene of true luxury while hidden in fancy clothes. Example, I am going to a masquerade ball next week. To win someone's heart. This is to gain the love, affection, or admiration of someone. Example, I plan to win the heart of the most popular boy at school. It just means I plan to get the most popular boy in school to love me or to like me. Gate crash. This is a very popular English word. This means to enter a party or gathering or an event without an invitation or a ticket. If you aren't invited to an event and you go to the event anyway, you are gate crashing the event. The same way Romeo was not invited to the Capulets' masquerade and went anyway. He gate crashed the event. Fate. Fate is the development of events outside a person's control. It's regarded as predetermined by a supernatural power. We have the word destiny, which is similar to fate. These are the events that will necessarily happen to a particular person or thing in the future. Lovebirds. These are openly affectionate couples. Example, the lovebirds celebrated Valentine's Day in a very grand manner. Distraught. Distraught means very worried and very upset. Example, I was distraught when my dog went missing. This means I was very worried and upset when my dog went missing. Next we have love struck. This means to experience intense feelings of romantic love for someone. We can also call love-struck people besotted or infatuated. We say that Romeo and Juliet were love-struck because we know that they had strong romantic feelings for each other. They couldn't live without each other. Back to reality. This is usually used to say stop dreaming or stop thinking unrealistically. Example, after a wonderful summer vacation, it was time to get back to reality. Let's look at two very similar words, and these words are banishment and exile. Banishment is the punishment of being sent away, and exile is the state of being barred from one's native country. Both these words refer to a punishment, which means that you have to go away. This is what Romeo experienced after he killed Tybalt. We can say he was banished, or we can say he was exiled. Despair, the complete loss or absence of hope. Example, Romeo and Juliet felt despair when they realized they would not be able to be together. We have the phrase, the least of one's problems. This is talking about a problem that is of less concern than another problem, or in simpler terms, the smallest problem. Example, after failing my exams, not being able to go to the party was the least of my problems. I am saying that not being able to go to the party was the smallest of my problems. Move up. The phrasal verb move up in the context of the story means to change the date or time of some scheduled event to an earlier date or time. Example, Juliet's father moved up her wedding date. This means that her father changed the date to a date that would be sooner. Devious. Devious means to show skillful use of dishonest tactics, bad tactics to achieve goals. We can describe people as devious too. Example, Friar Lawrence and Juliet came up with a devious plan, or Friar Lawrence was a devious man. Next we have the phrase laid to rest. This means to bury someone who has died. Very simply, we can say he was laid to rest yesterday. This means he was buried yesterday. Feuding. Feuding means to be engaged in a prolonged and bitter quarrel or dispute. Example, the Montagues and Capulets were feuding families. And our final word for today is flaw. This is a mark or a blemish or an imperfection which makes an object flawed, which damages an object. And that brings us to the end of our lesson today. In our lesson, we looked at the famous story of Romeo and Juliet, which was a play written by world-famous writer and playwright William Shakespeare. We examine the words and phrases that can be used to talk about the story of Romeo and Juliet too. If you enjoyed this lesson, then please hit the like button and don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. Feel free to follow me on Facebook and Instagram for daily English learning content, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you for your time today, and this is Ashley with Level Up English signing out. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.